This is the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good evening, Tuscaloosa. Goodness gracious. Let's have a late night show here on the Joe Gaither Show. Hope you guys are having a good Wednesday evening. If you're listening to this tomorrow when it drops on BamaCentral.com, happy Thursday morning. But we're going to have a fun Wednesday night. I had a great day today on BamaCentral.com covering Alabama's second spring practice. So we're going to spend some time talking about Alabama spring practice. We're going to talk about ESPN, Chris Lowe's article that he wrote about Nick Saban. And we will talk about unbelievable, so bad, Alabama's crushing loss to the Florida Gators last night. As always, you can jump in and join the show at Joe Gaither 6 on Facebook, on Twitter, or on YouTube. You can be on the show and subscribe to the show at BamaCentral on BamaCentral.com, at BamaCentral on the YouTube channel. And you can always be a part of the show by subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show on Amazon, Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify. You can join in on the comments section on Facebook and on those social media platforms that we just outlined. We want to jump in and thank you for watching tonight. And let's get right into it. You want to start with football or basketball? We're going to start with football, and we're going to start with Chris Lowe. We're going to start with Chris Lowe. We'll go to basketball, and then we'll finish with spring practice. How about that? All right, so Chris Lowe wrote an article that everyone has seen by now. It basically outlines more of Nick Saban's reason for retirement, and it outlines Greg Byrne's response to it. And you can read it on ESPN right now if you want to get into it. It's very easy to find. It's all over the place. And everybody, we wrote about it on BamaCentral.com as well if you want to read our Katie Wyndham's take on the situation. So Chris Lowe writes more information. He's got more information, and I want to talk about Greg Byrne. He writes about Greg Byrne. Greg Byrne takes a lot of action in those 50 hours. He asked for 75. He basically gave you a new coach in 50. And it sounded like, it's very interesting to me, that Nick Saban the year prior basically came to him and said, we need to evaluate this on a year-to-year basis going forward. And so because of that, Greg Byrne, he already had likely a list at that point, but he said, okay, I need to be serious about honing this list. And Chris Lowe writes about some of the characteristics that he was looking for. And it's very interesting to me that head coach Kalen DeBoer was already on his list, and Mike Norvell as well at Florida State was already on his list before each of them really had a breakout season per se. Now, you can believe that if you want to. I tend to believe that because I think Greg Byrne is a forward-thinking person and very analytical, and I think he has great vision. He landed in Nate Oates before he got hot, and hopefully he'll have the same success with Rob Vaughn and now with Kalen DeBoer. But basically, he says, okay, I got to look for a coach for the future because Nick Saban could retire at any year. Then Nick Saban does retire. Obviously, we all know he was in Washington the next day, and he lands Kalen DeBoer. But I find it very interesting. Some of the players that some of the former players that he reached out to in the Alabama family, Joe Namath, who didn't play for Nick Saban, but obviously has huge cachet. He reached out to Joe Namath, and then he reached out to Mark Ingram, Jalen Hurts, and Devontae Smith. So 2 Heisman Trophy winners, and then Jalen Hurts, one of one of the best leaders that's ever been at Alabama. So everybody who has kind of got on you guys over the last couple of years about Jalen Hurts not being an Alabama man, it seems like Greg Byrne certainly thought of him high enough to maybe not take advice, but at least have a conversation about the next Alabama football coach. So it's really a good look at Greg Byrne and those 50 hours, and I think it applauds Greg Byrne for his efficiency, making the decision and really being prepared for the inevitable decision by Nick Saban. I find it very, very encouraging from an Alabama standpoint, and you can check out. He's told Yay Alabama today that he's not interested in taking the Texas A&M job. Apparently, rumors swirling about him being the next athletic director at Texas A&M. If that vacancy were to come up, Alabama very lucky to have Greg Byrne at its helm. And Greg Byrne was out at spring practice today, saying hello to the media. So he was always very, very friendly with us. We appreciate him and his role. And it sounds like Chris Lowe in his article highlighted all the ways and all the ways he overcame challenges in those 50 hours. Now, on the Nick Saban side of things, Nick Saban's side, it just got into more things that we already knew. It got into more reasons for his retirement. And basically, I read it this morning and I thought, yeah, well, duh. I mean, I appreciate the reporting. Chris Lowe, great job. Obviously, great job. We all read your piece. But I read I had my exit interviews with my players, and 70 or 80% of the players were asking for assurances over playing time and NIL. And I thought, well, duh. I mean, what else are you going to talk about in an exit interview? Coach, I'm on the third string, and look, I want to be on the first string next year. What do you think about that? Can you promise me any playing time? Or I'm going to the transfer portal. I'm an Alabama player, and really what's hurt Alabama over the course of the transfer portal era is that depth being robbed. And so Coach was seeing exhaustion in front of him with each conversation. And also, you ask for assurances. Oh, can you give me $100,000? Can you give me $30,000? Whatever the case may be. Can you get me $1 million to keep playing at the capstone? We've talked about it before. We enjoy Alabama as the NIL collective, but really, what was the status of the coffers for these Alabama for the roster? You can look up and down college football and see what a roster costs. Did Alabama and did Nick Saban think that he had the roster or had the money to keep the roster together? Had the money or had the assurances to keep the roster together? And look, you do this 1 year, all right, I can deal with this. We can get it better. We're going to get our message to the players that the future value is there. And, you come to Alabama to develop yourself on and off the field, and you'll get your NIL if you are very explosive and exciting and as successful as a player like Bryce Young or like Will Anderson. It'll be there for you if you're an Alabama football player. So you do that 1 year and you think your message gets through. The next year, it doesn't get through. The next year, it doesn't get through. And he's thinking, what in the world? And then you combine that. I found it very, a little insightful. The Rose Bowl reaction, talking about a couple of players didn't handle the loss with class, throwing helmets and being maybe icy per se. Look. You want players to care. You want players to take the loss hard. But, yeah, you can't be throwing the helmets around. And Coach basically cited all these little reasons that he took to show, or he took to mean that his influence was not near as strong over these players. And you're getting the detractors. You're getting the Alabama haters. Oh, as soon as money gets involved and Coach Saban can't control things, just like it was in the NFL. Look. This is like the third or the fourth big shifts in Coach Saban's long and storied career. At least his second or third big shift here at the while he's been at the capstone. You had the hurry up offense, and you had the college football playoff, and you had early signing date that he's dealt with, like big major changes in college football that he has dealt with over the course of his career. And you want to say, oh, once the money gets involved, you can't hang. I don't think that's the case. I think really he tries to hang, he tries to adjust over the last 3 years, and he's like, okay, I'm either not. Look, he always said, I'm going to step away, I'm going to retire when I think that I'm hurting the program or not leading the program as efficiently or effectively as I was in the beginning. Obviously, golly, 08 all the way to 14 was 15 and 16. Look, his tenure and his reign was incredible. And he looks at himself in the mirror and says, I don't have quite the influence. And really, look, we came up short in the Rose Bowl. And, I don't know if we have the money to sustain the roster. And I definitely don't know about – look, I don't want to shop the transfer portal for more depth because I'm going to lose my own depth. You brought in a huge, huge recruiting class. The 2024 recruiting class had what, 24 guys, 25 guys? So you were bringing in guys anticipating a loss of depth. He already at that point, you had 17 transfers, 17 guys in the portal from the end of the Iron Bowl until through the Rose Bowl. He's probably thinking, oh my gosh, can I do this again? And then Chris Lowe hits on the coaches. He highlighted Tommy Rees as his seventh offensive coordinator in the last 11 years. They got to be very difficult. I mean, obviously it was. Coach Saban highlighted it. Difficult to deal with younger coaches looking for their bite at the apple, looking for their little slice of fame. I'm going to be on the Alabama coaching staff, and I'm going to make a name for myself, and then I'm going to bounce out and go and run my own program. And you congratulate and you don't hate on the coaches that do that, but it gets exhausting replacing coaches year after year after year. And so Chris Lowe just giving you more insight to the why Nick Saban made his decisions. And while I did think it was a little bit, I definitely appreciated more of the insight really on Coach Saban's retirement and why he made that decision. Him going down to Florida right after the Rose Bowl with Terry Saban, them kind of having that discussion, and Greg Byrne being ready for it. It just gives you confidence going forward with the Alabama athletic department. What you don't have confidence in, oh my gosh, is the Alabama basketball team. Oh my gosh. I didn't want to do this part, but you really have to because it is what it is. And we've been talking Alabama basketball the entire season. They go on the road. They've lost their third out of the fourth game to the Florida Gators, 105-87. And the basketball team, the wheels are falling off. Look, you've got the one side of the Alabama contingent, and really they are right saying, oh my gosh, Alabama has overachieved. And Alabama, this has been such a good season, and what a great coaching job by Nate Oates. And that part I definitely think is true. But you have the other side. Oh, Alabama can't get it done. Alabama, this always happens. I think there's a meeting in the middle. Look, this program is in great shape, but I think there's definitely room to be disappointed with the way that this season has gone. Especially, I mean, you built through the non-conference. You took those three huge losses to the top three teams in the country at that time, top 10 teams at the country in the country at that time. Creighton, Arizona, and Purdue. You took those losses. You started to build. You got a couple non-conference wins after that, and then really your SEC season was building, was going well. You were in control, winning the SEC regular season. It's just a lot of disappointment to be in control, to be in first place, and now what? In a matter of 7 days, a matter of 10 days after the Kentucky loss, you lost to Kentucky, and now boom, Tennessee beat South Carolina tonight, and they are SEC champions. Alabama really having to close their season right here at home against the Arkansas Razorbacks. And look, you look at it, and it's everything we've all talked about. The defense was atrocious, not good. You couldn't play without fouling. You couldn't play without turning the basketball over. You turned the basketball over 4 out of your first 7 possessions of the game, 13 turnovers in the game, leading to 17 Florida Gator points, 27 fast break points for the Gators, and then boom, you let them go to the free throw line 46 times because you can't play without fouling. I mean, look, there's something to be said. There absolutely is. The little bit of gray area where you can talk about the officials. Sure, that ticky-tack call here, that ticky-tack call there. But at some point, we've played, how many basketball games for Alabama now? There are 20-something and 10. Let me see if I can find it. Yesterday. They're 20 and 10. Well, I was right on that. They're 20 and 10. You play 30 daggone basketball games. You have a 30-game sample size to know that this basketball team struggles with guys fouling out, struggles with playing without fouling. And at some point you can say, oh, it's Doug Shows. Oh, it's Pat Adams. Oh, it's, this official's out to get Alabama. Oh, they don't like Nate Oates. Like, at some point, you just got to control yourself a little bit better. Obviously, Grant Nelson is not really cut out to play the 5, and we understand that. We understand that he's being asked to do something he's not really it's not really in his wheelhouse. And we know that Muhammad Wagi's got not really a healthy foot, so you're not seeing him a whole lot. We know that Nick Pringle he's a tough guy. He has improved on not fouling as much, but he's still getting into foul trouble. How many for him on my man Pringle right there? Pringle, boom, 4 personal fouls on Tuesday night. Well, Sam Walters fouls out. You have Grant Nelson foul out. You have Muhammad Diabate with 4 fouls. And look, I love you, Muhammad Diabate. I'm glad he got more minutes than he's been. Well, 7. So not many more minutes because he can't play without fouling either. Like, goodness gracious, you've got to control yourself on the defensive end. And I don't know if it's a foot speed issue, if it's an athleticism issue, if it's you're getting some of the guys are being asked to do things that they're not capable of. But what it did look like, oh my gosh, and it played into the 3-point shooting, 22%. 22% from behind the arc. What are you, 5 of 23? You went your first 9 3-pointers. You didn't make them. This team just looks tired. It just looked tired to me. And you're hopefully going to see Alabama get some rest over the next couple of days. I mean, obviously, you took today off. Coach Nato addressed that in the post game, saying, yeah, they did look tired. Gave them today off, and you're going to get a long stretch off next week as Alabama's going to play on Friday. Well, hopefully, if you clinch the number two seed by beating Arkansas, and Tennessee winning over Kentucky. You got to have Tennessee win over Kentucky. And while it does sound a little yucky to cheer for the Tennessee Vols, you don't want Kentucky to win because you want to have that 2 seed. You get the 3 seed, and who do you have probably on the court in Nashville on Friday? The Florida Gators. And while you are going to have to beat some of these good teams to win an SEC tournament title, you'd much rather not play Florida in that Friday game if you can avoid it, and you can avoid it by earning that number 2 seed, by beating Arkansas and having Kentucky lose to Tennessee. But look, you have all these factors, everything we've talked about through the season, the bad defense, turning the basketball over. And I mean, we really haven't talked too much about the 3-point shooting not being there, but the last couple of games, the 3-point shooting hasn't been there. Great to see Latrell Wrightsell back in action for the Tide this past on Tuesday night. You need to get him back, and maybe you get Latrell back. You let the guys get a little rest. You beat Arkansas. And you have the whole rest of the week, to get ready for the SEC tournament. Maybe that rest will allow this team to maybe find themselves and get ready for the postseason. Right now, oh boy, I'm feeling like a 1 win in the SEC tournament on a Friday and a loss on semifinal Saturday to one of these one of these other four or five good teams. You got Tennessee, Kentucky, Auburn, oh my mercy, South Carolina, and maybe even Florida as possible teams that are good enough to eliminate you. Obviously, you beat South Carolina by 30 points here in Colby Coliseum, but that was that 1st of January, so they're a totally different team. It's going to be a challenge in Nashville. But it doesn't get going until Alabama plays Arkansas. Look, you got to watch this, put this loss behind you. You say, look, Alabama, you've just been bad on the road all year long. But thank the Lord, you don't have to play on the road again. Technically, while Nashville is on the road, everything is now neutral sites, neutral courts. You don't want to get sent out to Spokane, Washington. If you can help it, you'll see, a strong close to your season. And you might get sent to maybe the Barclays Center in New York. It's looking like Memphis is fading fast and off the table, and Charlotte as well. So not good for the Alabama basketball team as it comes down to the rest of the season. I think they're going to win on Saturday against Arkansas. But we'll see what happens in tournament play. As far as the NCAA tournament, yeah, you're looking at that 4 seed, and we just hit on some of the locations. It's seeming like Spokane, Washington, all the way across the country. That'd be a problem for Alabama fans. You're going to get what's this team going to do in the tournament? It just all depends on if they can clean up those errors. Then get their legs under them, stop turning the basketball over. But safely, we can all assume a first-round win, and then from there, you're just rolling the dice. Any second-round team can beat you. This Alabama team on any given night. I mean, they can beat any team, but they also look like they can lose to any competent team as well. All right, so let's get into practice today. Before we do that, let's tell you about Druid City Music Hall. We've got a lot of people watching today. You can go see live events at Druid City Music Hall. March 12th, Tag Team Tour, an evening with Dawes and Lucius. It will be there on March 12th at Druid City Music Hall. You can get tickets at druidcitymusichall.com. They are the premier place for live music on the Strip right there next to the Waffle House over there by all the fun on campus. campus. If you want to see some live music, they've redone everything. They've got live acts all the time at Druid City Music Hall, and get your tickets at druidcitymusichall.com. We appreciate them so much for being a part of the program. All right, why is this show going on so late? Why is it happening at 10 p.m. instead of at 1 o'clock like it usually does? Because we had the privilege, and it absolutely was a privilege. Thank you so much, Kalen DeBoer, and thank you so much, Josh Maxson, for making everything happen, Aaron Jordan, and everybody on the athletics communication team for allowing us to be at the Malmore Athletic Facility today to take in some Alabama football practice. Oh my gosh, what a time to be alive. It's a new era, and myself, Katie Wyndham, Matthew Gibson, Will Miller, we were all over there for BamaCentral.com. You can check out some of our takeaways on BamaCentral.com right now. I'm going to write a piece about Keon Keeley for the morning edition of the cover for Bama Central, so you'll probably be reading that if you're checking this out on a Thursday. It was exciting. Oh my! It was a blast. Okay, you got to just take it on a personal standpoint. We haven't been to practice since before COVID-19. The last time I was at practice was fall of 19, I believe so. And then you had the 2020 year, and basically Nick Saban used it as a way to say, "Oh, I like it when you guys can't be at practice," and it made us ask even dumber questions than we already do to some of these players and coaches. It was a lot of fun. Now, it was different as soon as you walked out. Boom, 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 boom. Music all over the field. It was bumping all high pace. It was awesome. It was great. Now, did I know every song? No. Did it matter? No. The pace of the music kept everything going. Now, did it increase? I think, look, being there was like drinking water through a fire hose. There's just all kinds of content. I was assigned to the defensive line and to the running backs, and basically we split up our practice observations. Katie Wyndham was watching the quarterbacks. We had Will Miller. He was watching the wide receivers, and Matthew Gibson was watching the defensive backs. So we're taking notes on who's who and where's where. It's a whirlwind. Guys are going everywhere. It was high pace. It was, I don't want to say it was a faster pace than a Nick Saban practice, but it was a faster pace than a Nick Saban practice. Now, who knows what a Nick Saban practice has looked like over the last 2 years? You can give him some grace there, some leeway, some gray area for ourselves to be wrong, but it was a fast-paced practice, at least for the, 20 or so minutes, 25 or so minutes that we were allowed to be out there. It was fast, and so that was a lot of fun. Where do my notes start? My notes say fast-paced, music, whirlwind. My next note says Austin Mack is huge. Okay, so look, I don't think there's a quarterback controversy. Jalen Milroe is taking all the first reps, and we didn't see any 11 on 11. What we saw was a vast mixture of individual drills and combination drills where a couple different position groups were coming together doing different things. But what we largely saw was individual position groups working together doing fundamental work. So Jalen Milroe is going through with the ones through these fundamental drills as the quarterback one. But Austin Mack, I'll just tell you, that dude is freaking huge. And we all thought that Jalen Milroe was huge, playing quarterback last year at 6'3", Austin Mack, he's listed at 6'6". He is a whole lot bigger than Jalen Milroe. He stands out. Among. Now, granted, he's over there with the other quarterbacks and running backs and wide receivers. He's not standing over there. He's not mixed up with the offensive line quite yet, so you don't see him stand side by side. But he is a big old dude. And speaking of other big old dudes that stood out physically, Damani Jackson and Jalen Mbakwe. I turned and looked at the defensive backs here for a little bit of time, and they're going through their individual drills, just kind of working the back pedal, that sort of thing. Damani Jackson, transfer from USC. He's going through as the cornerback 2, cornerback 1. He and Jaleel Hurley. Damani Jackson is a monster. He is a huge cornerback. And then likewise, Jalen Mbakwe, 5-star out of Clay Chalkville, Mr. Everything state champion, 6A state champion quarterback. He is huge as well. He and Damani Jackson look kind of similar together. Now, Jalen Mbakwe was going like third or fourth in the line. Very interesting. The defensive backs are the most interesting to me for this spring period because you really have Malachi Moore and who? No one. No one else in the defensive back room that has great experience outside of Malachi Moore. Jaleel Hurley is the only real scholarship returnee. Jaleel Hurley, redshirt freshman. Outside of that, you've got your Damani Jackson transferred from USC, and he's got collegiate experience, got a great experience with the Trojans. But outside of that, it's a lot of new guys. You got Zay Mincy, you got Jalen Mbakwe. It's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out in the defensive backfield. And then, look, you're gonna have Malachi Moore back there, so that's gonna be helpful. But Keon Sabb, who plays safety? Is it going to be Tony Mitchell? Is it going to be Devontae Smith? Lots of room for new faces in the defensive backfield, and I think that makes the most interesting room for this spring. So I'm assigned, like I said, I was assigned running backs and defensive line, and I'm watching the defensive line, and I'm sitting there saying, okay, they're looking good. They're hitting the pads. They're popping the sled. They're going through, and all of a sudden, I notice, oh, that's 31. 31. Keon Keeley is with the defensive line, not with the outside linebackers. And our man Kane Womack addressing that after practice today, saying that he fits more as a bandit in this defense, and his physical growth over the last year while he's been here at the Capstone will suit him better for his NFL future to play bandit, to play really in defensive end on the edge in this new defense. Instead of stand up outside linebacker, he's going to be have his hand on the dirt. Now, one interesting thing I saw while the defensive line was going through the drills, Keon Keeley was going through last, and that's fine, no big deal. Don't take that for too much. Because Freddie Roach said the biggest goal for him is he's got to get on the field more and get more experience, but he's going through last. Right, and they're popping the sled going through, and it's got 5-6 different sled dummies on the sled, and he's got to go from one to all the way down to the end of the sixth, and he gets all the way down to the end. And before moving on as a group, the entire defensive line moving on to the next drill that they wanted to do, kind of working through some cones in the next drill, Freddie Roach stops him from moving on and pulls him aside, and it's not I'm yelling in your face. It's hey, I'm talking one-on-one, and you can see him. Now we're at a distance here, but you can see him. Post him up, get his hands right on his chest. Obviously a coaching moment. It wasn't like it was a technique moment, and then Keon Keeley goes back to the last sled dummy and hits it another 1, 2, 3 times, and then as a group they all move on. Freddie Roach, it was a really interesting approach. And basically he discussed that after practice, saying, it's a learning opportunity. It's teaching. It's a teaching moment. I almost wonder, and our friend Josh Pate from Late Kick Josh, from Late Kick Josh, 24/7 Sports, he just graded his coaching staff, and he talked about this Alabama coaching staff is one of the 4 best coaching staffs in the SEC, even with the departure of Nick Saban, and it has raised its, however, he was grading things on the defensive side of the football. I just wonder if the teaching element with the younger coaching staff, the fresh eyes, look, you can talk about the music or not, and you can say, oh, Nick Saban didn't play the music. And sure, he didn't. There wasn't a whole lot of I'm in your face yelling. It was more rah-rah yelling. It was more let's go yelling. It's more hype, hype, hype. Let's keep it up. Let's keep the energy going yelling. Instead of, look, I'll just be honest, a couple of times that we were out there during the Coach Saban era, and it was totally fine. It's just a stylistic change. There was a lot of cursing. There was a lot of you mother, let's go, and while that's a coaching style and it's fine, I don't know how much it meshes with the current player. Now, you can say because these players are soft and this, that, and that might be the case. But look, think back to Najee Harris. Najee Harris basically looks at Nick Saban and says, "You're not gonna mother f me." And then they had their tiff. You remember when that was a huge story. And then Coach Saban said, I had to kind of learn how to address, how to get on the same page with Najee Harris to get the most out of him. I wonder how much of that, if that philosophical change, because look, while the music was going and it was a lot of modern hip hop and a lot of rap, I will say a lot of it was censored. You had Kodak Black Super Gremlin, and that always gets me going and takes me back, the San Francisco 49ers coming out for all their big playoff games. But it has a lot of language, a lot of dirty language in it, and each and all of it was censored. Now, I didn't know. Now, once I noticed that song was censored, I was like, oh, let me listen to the rest of it. I didn't hear, dirty language that usually you hear in modern music. And, if you want to enjoy that, that's okay. That's fine with me. But it's very interesting that didn't seem to be an aspect of the practice element. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, who knows? And who knows if that's even a thing to think about. Maybe that's a weird thing for me to think about. So Keon Keeley playing the defensive line, I think it's going to be very interesting to notice, going to be interesting to see. Look, there was a lot of interesting pairings along the defensive line. You had Tim Keenan basically out there as the starting defensive lineman. He and Jamarian Latham were out there through the first of the line. You've got a lot of interesting linemen with Jordan Renaud. You have he went through the line pretty quickly. Curtis Perry went through the line pretty early. LT Overton was later in the line, but it was very interesting and fun to see a lot of these defensive linemen. After practice, I got to talk to Tim Smith, and Tim Smith talked about Keon Keeley, basically saying it's very hard to change positions and saying that he's got a lot of learning to do, and that he's really being taken under the wing by the rest of the defensive linemen, basically saying it's hard to come over and change positions in a place where you're outweighed by 40, 50, 70, 80 pounds, depends on where he's lining up, and basically said, don't worry, we're gonna take care of him in the defensive line room. So we'll see how Keon Keeley develops from the defensive line perspective. My next note, lots of pass catching drills from the running back. Justice Haynes and Jam Miller were basically going every few, swapping with the one. Basically, it'd be Haynes for a couple times through, he was the one, and then Miller a couple times through, he was the one. And look, I know you're excited about seeing Justice Haynes this year take over the load. And I kept thinking that last year you were going to see Nick Saban break glass in case emergency, break glass if you need it. Justice Haynes smash. We're going to use it in I thought that Rose Bowl would have been a great time to do it. He did use Justice a little bit in that second half, but I thought that, I was like, everybody was waiting on, when's Justice Haynes going to get his chance? And while it's no hate on Jace McClellan or Roydell Williams, you could tell every time he got the football, he's got that little extra burst, that little extra juice. And so I thought, you're saving him for, I guess, that Auburn game or that SEC championship game or that Rose Bowl. And you never did really see him get let loose. So it's going to be fun to see he and Jam Miller basically play 1A and 1B, depending on the game. Hot hand, who's got the hot hand? One thing that was interesting, there was a lot of pass catching drills by the running back. You had Jam Miller and Justice Haynes, Jam Miller, and then your next running back, pretty much every single time through, was Richard Young, the number 3. You remember him, 5-star player out of Florida. He didn't really get a whole lot of run last year. Actually, no run last year. He was a summer enrollee, as to Justice Haynes was a spring enrollee, so he got that leg up on Richard Young. And then the fourth running back is a new spring enrollee, Daniel Hill. Look, you know about Daniel Hill. He had a wild recruitment, was always kind of, I'm ready to recruit to commit to Alabama. No, I'm not. I might go to Mississippi State. I might go to South Carolina. I like South Carolina. Go to Tennessee. Dude, he's come to Tuscaloosa. He is a big old boy. So you have 4 scholarship running backs going through the line right now, with Justice and Jam kind of playing 1A and 1B, and then you've got Richard Young and then Daniel Hill bringing up the rear as your true freshman early enrollee. We didn't get a whole good look at, or I didn't get a whole good look at the offensive line because I wasn't assigned to it, but you can read the practice report on BamaCentral.com, and it's very, very interesting, in my opinion, about the offensive line. Let's check it out. well. Let's check it out together. This is from Katie Wyndham, and as always, Katie Wyndham leads our coverage here at Bama Central. Offensive line. We're just going to read her paragraph right out loud. This is a position group of intrigue as Alabama will be replacing both starting tackles from a season ago, plus the starting center. DeBoer brought over a starting center from Washington last season, Parker Brailsford, in the transfer portal. But it was redshirt junior James Brockermeyer that was taking the reps with the ones. From the left to the right, the first group offensive line was Elijah Pritchett, Tyler Booker, James Brockermeyer, Jaden Roberts, and Wilkin Formby, Mr. Taco Casa. And then the second team offensive line from left to right was Niquil Bertrand. I'm going to have to get comfortable with his name. Niquil Bertrand, Olasa Lennon, Parker Brailsford, Rock Montgomery, and Miles McVeigh. Now, I added that part about Mr. Taco Casa. Katie would never denigrate her articles that way with something so unserious. But that's a fun, interesting offensive line. James Brockermeyer over Parker Brailsford through your second day of spring practice. Is that just respect to the work that James Brockermeyer has already put in here at the capstone? Look, he's a redshirt junior, so he's been here for a hot minute. You all remember he and Tommy were the hot twins, the 5 stars out of Texas that came here. Now, Tommy has already transferred out, to TCU? And I've lost track of him, I'll be honest. But James has stayed as he is an Alabama man through and through, and he is now taking the reps as the one center. Now, look, it's all spring practice. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. It's not set in stone. Nothing is really nothing. Don't take anything and run too much. But it's interesting. You've got your man Wilkin Formby playing right tackle, and Elijah Pritchett at left doesn't really surprise me based off how much run he got last year at left tackle. We'll see if he's picked up a little quicker step at the left tackle. Wilkin Formby, we'll see. We haven't really seen him in game action. Right tackle, you're going to step up and be the man. Northridge High School to Mr. Right here, Tuscaloosa's own. Go out and get you some Taco Casa today and support the the Formby family. So that's going to be, it's interesting. I mean, you knew Tyler Booker was going to be there. You knew Jaden Roberts were going to be there. Those were obvious. Interesting, the second team, Olasa Lennon moving from tackle to guard. Now, you can never say for sure he might be the next swing tackle, and he's just playing guard to get some reps right there in the second team. And then you got Brailsford, Rock Montgomery, and Miles McVeigh, 2 guys who are in the Olasa Lennon class, right? In the Formby class. That class had like 5 stars. It was a huge class for the offensive line. We'll see how they work themselves into the Kalen DeBoer offense. What are my last little notes here? Just offensive line. Kane Womack in Alabama on the wide. Look, we met with Kalen DeBoer, with Kane Womack after practice, and it was great to really have breakout sessions with Kane Womack, with Freddie Roach, with Maurice Linguist. They brought a bunch of players, so I am so appreciative of Kalen DeBoer for setting it up this way, and Josh Maxson and the Alabama communication staff for facilitating everything. If you want to see anything that you missed, you can check it out on the BamaCentral YouTube channel. All the interviews that we got are right there on the BamaCentral YouTube channel. But Kane Womack started things off, and everybody was huddled around him, and somebody asked him, actually my man Ryan Fowler on Tide 109 asked him if he can detail why he made the decision to take a demotion from South Alabama. You're the head coach of a program. You're leading the Jaguars. Y'all just had the 15th best defense in the country last year. You're building something in Mobile to take a demotion to be the defensive coordinator here in Tuscaloosa. And a little bit was the canned answer. A little bit was the coach speak of Alabama, the prestige. But I did think the 2 things were very, very genuine. The 2 parts of his answer were genuine. He talked about Alabama and obviously the SEC and the prestige, but he noted that his father, Dave Womack, growing up in the SEC, that his father coached in various spots in the SEC, and then he noted how much he played at Arkansas. I mean, Kane Womack played in that backfield. He was running back / tight end. He was like 5th string in the Peyton Hillis, Darren McFadden, Felix Jones backfield. Yeah, he was a part of that crew. So he talked about knowing the history of the SEC. I think that while some of it was a little bit of platitudes, that really knowing oh, if I make my name in the SEC, I can be an elite defensive coordinator for 3 years in the SEC and then go anywhere I want to. Yeah, South Alabama is great, and he can win at South Alabama, and his resources are what they are. They ain't what they are here at the University of Alabama. You can win at South Alabama, and maybe you get good looks, but if you build something, if you sustain things after Nick Saban retires, I think he's going to have the pick of his litter, and he's going to be able to make whatever money he wants to, wherever he wants to. And the second thing he talked about was Kalen DeBoer. He said, and being able to do it with Kalen DeBoer. Look, I talked about it on the show yesterday, and if you listened to it and didn't appreciate it, that's okay. That's no problem. But I kind of find Kalen DeBoer a little bit boring. But what I don't find Kalen DeBoer is disingenuous. I might find, it seems like Kalen DeBoer is all ball, is all, not a whole lot of flash as far as personality. But what I do think, I do think he's someone who knows your name. I think he is someone who cares about his players to a great degree. And I think really, honestly, I think he's more of a listener than a talker. I think he's a talker when he needs to be, and he's going to be. But I think he's that leader. What I've noticed in his leadership so far through 8 weeks on the job is that he empowers. He empowers his coordinators. Obviously, look, he empowers his players. These are his player leaders. The 5 players that we got today are leaders of the program. Freddie Roach is a leader in this program. He empowers people, I think, to make good decisions and to really put their fingerprints on the program. And I think that maybe he's kind of a curator of sorts. He's going to take a lot of great ideas, take people's ideas, make them his own, and really operate at the highest level. And I really do like Kalen DeBoer as a person. And so for Kane Womack to highlight the SEC factor of why he's taking a demotion, and Kalen DeBoer as why. Oh, I wanted to work for Kalen DeBoer. I wanted to be a part of Kalen DeBoer's vision. Look, he only spent 1 year with Kalen DeBoer at Indiana in 2019. But what did that 1 year lead to? Look at the staff. A lot of the staff right now is from that Indiana year. He's in Indiana 1 year. They have a successful year, but he leaves such a mark on a lot of these people that, boom, they follow him to Fresno State. They follow him to Washington, and now they follow him to Tuscaloosa. No, you don't keep Ryan Grubb because he's going to go do his own thing. But the majority of the people that are, building this program, I think Kalen DeBoer is someone who inspires a lot of loyalty and a lot of team buy-in. And from an Alabama perspective, from a team perspective, from a football perspective, I think that's what yields you lots of wins. And so you can see today as, oh no, look at all the things that Coach DeBoer did differently than Coach Saban. The music at practice, the availability after practice, the availability in practice. We filmed a lot. We put it on BamaCentral's YouTube channel. Yeah, it got flagged for copyright because of all the music. If you want to check out what some of the music was played there at practice, you can. There's a lot of early differences already between Saban and DeBoer. But I think that maybe I've got my crimson-colored glasses on, but I think that Kalen DeBoer is leading Alabama into a positive, refreshing direction. We'll see if it yields to wins in the fall. But through the first spring practice, through the first time we were there at spring practice, Alabama's second practice, it was a lot of fun, and I appreciate being there. Thank you so much, Kalen DeBoer, for having us there. We're going to be back there on Friday. We'll have practice again on Friday, and then there's going to be one more time after the guys break for spring break. They're going to break for spring break, and then they're going to go through a little more, 2 more weeks of practice, I believe? I think 8 days in 6 weeks. So looking forward to A-Day and really seeing these guys doing some live action. Today was all individual drills, and you can see some of the video on BamaCentral.com. You can see all the video at BamaCentral's YouTube channel, right where you're watching this program at BamaCentral on the YouTube program. I'm going to get out of here for the night. It's been a great day on Bama Bama Central. And if you're watching this on a Thursday, I hope you have a great day. Get excited for Kalen DeBoer. Hopefully the basketball team will cut down on its turnovers. Reitzel getting back into action. You only played him, how many minutes? He did play, but how many minutes did Reitzel get? You got him in the first half, 8 minutes, so not a whole lot. You get him back into game shape. Maybe this team can recapture some of its magic and recapture some of its momentum. Cut down on the fatigue, curb the fatigue, and get ready for the postseason action. And then we're going to be all over practice. We will be all over practice as it goes, because football is king here at Alabama, and we're excited to see the new direction in the Kalen DeBoer era. So I appreciate everybody who's watching me tonight on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You watch me at Joe Gaither 6 on social medias. You can find me on any of the social media, your favorite social media, at Joe Gaither 6. You can subscribe to the show at BamaCentral on YouTube, at BamaCentral at Joe Gaither on BamaCentral on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on Amazon. We appreciate you subscribing, rating, reviewing the show. You can leave your comments, questions, queries, and complaints right there in the comments section on all the social media pages as well. So we're getting out of here for the night. We'll be back tomorrow on Thursday, some point midday, to talk more Alabama sports right here on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com.
Thanks for joining us on today's edition of the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. Keep up with Joe on all his social media pages at Joe Gaither 6. Subscribe, rate, and review the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and be sure to read us daily at BamaCentral.com.